before I matched, so this was like a little bit, let me see. Can you guys see this window?
Yes, Dr. Sarah, your screen is visible.
Okay, great. I wonder how I can. Okay. I just want to check something. All right, so I am going to start with this presentation. Just again, a brief introduction and a little bit of background about myself. I grew up in the UAE in Abu Dhabi, and I went to school there, graduated in 2015. And then I went to medical school at King Edward. I graduated in 2021. And then in the middle, I did like different things, house job, and then some rotations. And I was also taking my steps. And then I started my research in 2023, at the end of 2023. And I did research for about 2.5 years. And I matched this year, and I will be inshallah starting residency in July, just like to give you guys a perspective. So what you can expect from this session would be just like my personal journey into research, and then the match, a little bit of a guide on how to secure a research position, some practical tips on, formatting your CV, sending emails, how to, quote unquote, build your brand and networking, insights into what daily life as a research fellow looks like, at least for me, a little bit of a monetary breakdown and visa basics for people who are trying to plan their journeys ahead, and actionable advice for students right now and what you guys can do, early on in your journeys. What you should not expect is like any kind of secret cheat code, because, if someone was to ask me if there is one linear pathway into matching into any specialty or research or anything, there isn't. You could do everything possible and you still couldn't match. And my main message would be to just remember how unpredictable this process is. I'm not going to be rewriting people's CVs and personal statements and things. I know you guys would not ask me to do that, but people do ask. So, just something. And I'm not going to tell you like a one size fits all kind of a thing. What might have worked for me or somebody else may not work for someone, so that doesn't mean you don't try and try to navigate your own journey. And if you come across something that's a little bit difficult, you have to try to like get through it. So the first part would be why you want to like do this, because once you have a strong enough why into why you want to match into a particular specialty or why you want to go to the United States, the how starts to become a little bit more manageable. But if your why is not set, then it's going to be very hard for you to navigate all of the little nuances of everything. So most people think that their careers and medical school, maybe we think that, okay, like, well, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do residency, then fellowship, and you have this like linear pathway in your mind, and you're very, very tunnel visioned, especially in Pakistan, because we go to medical universities surrounded by hyper competitive, academically brilliant people, and it's very easy to think like this. But what it actually looks like is something very different, right? Like, people take years off, people do one residency, they don't like it, they switch trajectories. People get master's degrees, people get PhDs, some people quit medicine and they go into other fields. So, and then you end up where you are meant to end up. But remember that your pathway does not need to be linear, because then that will make your life a lot easier, and you will be able to think more creatively about what you want to do. And what else can it look like? And you want to think that, well, why am I going through this whole trouble? What's the point? And everything. These are a couple of things that I want you guys to, think about and have answers to, because not just now, but later on when you're applying for these residencies, you will build your brand, your personal statement, everything based on this. The first thing is, do you even want to move to the US? And if you do, why do you want to move there? from the outside, things look very, oh yeah, the US is great and everything, but there's a lot of issues in this country. And if you are a little bit, if you want to actually know what it's like to live here, talk to somebody who lives here, who moved from a similar background. And it's not rainbows and sunshines, and you guys watch the news all the time. So you need to know why you want to move here and not the UK. Why not Australia? Why not this? You need to have a solid reason why. You have to like to challenge yourself, because in terms of academics, in terms of personal growth, and just like the culture and everything, it will be a challenging process. The third thing you want to think about is whether you want to pursue a competitive specialty or whether you want to pursue a relatively less competitive specialty. Both of those are equally respectable. Internal medicine, family medicine, pediatrics, specialties that IMGs tend to usually match into, those are also very difficult to get into. And I don't ever want you guys to not respect people who want to do that, because there are people who look down on different things. You'll meet people who want to do surgery and then they look down on people who don't. So never become like that. But think about what you want to do, and if you want to pursue one of the competitive specialties, which includes radiology, ophthalmology, anesthesia, dermatology, surgery, including like neurosurgery and urology and these other different facets, you want to know early on that, okay, well, I want to do this. So you can tailor your CV according to that. And then you want to think about what your goals are, which is the main thing. So whether they're clinical, whether they're research, whether it's tailored towards public health, because then you're going to now like change your pathway a little bit based on that. And then finally, what your family and other circumstances are like, because some people need to support their families. They want to graduate and then get into residency as fast as possible. To unke liye, it doesn't matter whether they get into a really great program, but what specialty they get into, they would be happy doing medicine because XYZ. Whereas other people might be privileged and their families can support them. So they might even be willing to do unpaid research positions to get into some, competitive specialty. So all of those factors kind of play into your why. And, this is something you guys should think about before thinking about any of the next steps in the pathway. So like, why did I take this path? I was interested in ophthalmology and I wanted to do something different, I guess, and not, at least from King Edward at the time, not a lot of people, nobody actually had gone into ophthalmology. And Aga Khan ke kuch students hain who have, and it was something that I thought I am passionate about. And if I didn't try, if I didn't give it a shot, then I would regret it my whole life. So it was difficult because everybody else was doing one thing. People were matching, people were becoming chief residents before I was even starting residency. But then in the long run, though, 3 years don't really make a difference. You're going to be a doctor for the rest of your life, whatever specialty that is. But one thing you will never get back is the time that you could take a chance to pursue something you actually want to be, excited to do every day. So I took a risk, and alhamdulillah, it worked out. Probably if you guys talk to me January se pehle, I would be, very, very skeptical about whether it was going to work out. But yeah, so what you're going to gain from pursuing such a pathway, obviously academic advantages are on one end, dedicated time for research, which as medical students who come from Pakistan, we don't get that in university. You guys are still very, very well ahead, and I'm so happy to see, juniors and everything getting into research very early on. But when I graduated, it was like not that it was very difficult. Like third year, fourth year, mein hum log itni research nahi karte the at all, except for like our community medicine project. And so you're going to gain a lot of like dedicated research time, which is going to go a long way. A postdoctoral research position or any kind of research associate position is very, very essential for residency applications for any competitive specialty. So, the ones that I mentioned, it's very difficult for an IMG, especially in this day and age, to match into any of those without doing at least 2 years of research. I now, even people who are pursuing internal medicine are doing research because they want to get into a specific program, um, or just because they want to polish their CVs, or people who go unmatched try to do research. And because now American graduates are also taking research years, it's becoming even more, a little more like necessary in that way. So you kind of have to do it. It opens career doors, of course, in terms of like, mentorship, publications, and networking especially, which, at the end of the day, I would say is very, very important, apart from everything else, because we don't get that kind of mentorship in our universities, if I'm very honest. If anything, people will put you down. You will meet one person who will say, I think you can do it, you should take a shot. But at the end of the day, you're on your own. And then when you get there, they're going to be like, oh yeah, this person is from my university, and like they start owning you. But that's what you're going to gain a lot from this. You're going to meet mentors who are just wonderful people who want to see you succeed, and they're going to really vouch for you, and you're going to make a lot of memories during this time, which I think that when you immediately start residency, it's just like, you guys, you do like A levels and FSC, and then you do med school, and then you do residency. You lose so much of your youth in all of that कि आपको वो perspective नहीं मिलता कि मैंने, I want to kind of step out of that bubble and see that there's more to life than just all of this. So it gives you a little bit of perspective, and you meet people from very different walks of life, and it tells you that, okay, well, there's a bigger world out there. And I think that's really nice. You don't really lose anything, honestly. You know, if you think about time, yes, you think that 2 3 years or 2.5, people do like 3 4 years for like neurosurgery even. You think that that's a lot of time, but really it's not. I know life is short, people say this all the time, but life is actually long as well. This is like one of the best pieces of advice I got from some person who was not in medicine, but she told me that, life is long. So if you have to spend 2 3 years of your life in a country or doing something to get somewhere else, it's really not that big of a deal. And you will feel it. You will feel it along the way. Your peers, your other classmates who graduate with you, who are starting residency in Pakistan, who are doing things, they will do them before you do. They will start earning before you do. But if you guys want to do this, pathway for any specialty, don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't let that take away from what you want to do, and don't let that, like, hold you back. Okay, so enough with like the motivational stuff that I can get lost in. Let's talk about like eligibility and some skills that you guys can work on while you're in medical school right now, so that by the time you're done and you want to apply, you have a good, skill set for such a position. So obviously you need to graduate from medical school to start as a postdoctoral research fellow. I would recommend that at least आप लोग step 1 दे दो. If that means you want to take a gap year and do something in that gap year while you take your step 1 or step 2, I would say do that, because it's not a prerequisite, but it is very, very difficult to manage taking your step with research. Step 2 is obviously a little bit more difficult because now that scores matter. It's hard to manage a full-time job and your life and everything else with an exam, whereas when you're home or you're in the hostel, all you have to worry about is like, "Acha chalo, like I have to do parhai because XYZ, and the rest of the things I don't have to worry about." So, try to like plan your journey in a way that you can at least be done with step 1. Sometimes research positions aapko jab offer hoti hai, they prefer that you're done with step 1 at least, because they don't want their research fellows to be worrying about an exam. But it doesn't matter. Like if you, for example, are someone who can multitask, you're disciplined, and you get an opportunity, then just because you don't have your USMLEs done doesn't mean you're not, you're gonna not take that opportunity. It's just something that like I recommend because of what I've seen, and because I finished my exams before starting, and I think that was a huge blessing. you should have some sort of research knowledge and background. You don't need to have 100 publications in that particular field. I did not have ophthalmology publications at the time when I applied, and I was like, no one's how is anybody going to take me? But you don't need that. You need somebody who because they are meant to teach you. You need someone who sees that and they see that, well, I'm going to train and teach this individual and I see potential in them. So it's good to have basic knowledge about like the kinds of studies you can do, what the basic statistics, obviously, and the more you know, the better, obviously. And at the end of the day, you need to have a lot of passion, which is something that will make you stand out from everything else. So, research skills, you might need obviously critical thinking, statistics, and academic writings. A couple of things I've listed that you will kind of use during that time. You want to ask questions. Don't lose that ability of not questioning things. Statistics are very important. If you don't want to learn, I don't think you need to learn coding, but SPSS is something that's a really good statistical package that can do a lot of things. You want to learn that, but if you want to learn R or whatever statistical software you want to use, you should know at least one of these. Microsoft Office is pretty basic, but आपको Excel, Word, PowerPoint, the stuff you need to know, PowerPoint especially. Some sort of reference managing software. I use Zotero, people use Mendeley and Note. That's also pretty basic to learn. It's not something you guys will have to spend a lot of time with. You need to know how to look up papers on PubMed or Google Scholar. That too, like, you guys are like living in the time of like AI and everything. You can literally look things up. You can ask AI to create like a search strategy for you to, if you want something specific. But you should know how to filter through the articles yourself, how to organize a lit review, and obviously writing. Any kind of like, how to write up a paper, how to write up a case report, how to, format a paper based on journal requirements. And I'm sure you guys have like published at least one paper, or you've been involved in research in some way. So you might know these things already, but these are some of the skills. And professional skills, just soft skills होती हैं. You do need to be someone who can communicate well. Speaking, people have this misconception here for IMGs, especially because I guess maybe IMGs from other countries don't speak English that well, but they think कि पाकिस्तान से जो लोग आते हैं वो भी शायद उनको English पता नहीं कैसे आती है. Like everybody's very surprised. So you guys are pretty, we study in English and you guys are pretty well versed with communicating. That's something that's going to help you, because you want to be able to, because here all patients are going to speak, most of them are going to speak with like in English, or there's some who will speak Spanish. But if you cannot, it's the same thing. Like in Pakistan, if someone can't speak Urdu, then expecting them to communicate with patients in residency is going to be very tough. So you need to speak English well and be able to communicate. You need to have a teamwork mindset, not just for now, but for residency too. You can be someone that's like, I want to work on my own and I don't want to ask for help. If there's something you're stuck on, if you make a mistake, you need to be able to work as a part of a team, because in research, you will be working with multiple different teams. You need to be a good person in general. Not step over others, not like try to backstab other people and sabotage their work, because at some point it will show up in your character, and these people have so much experience कि उनको नजर आ जाता है. And I think at the end of the day, like if you're a good person, that really goes a long way. So don't be mean, don't be somebody who just backstabs people. Okay, so that is about the skills. So this part is about finding and applying for research positions. So, the main thing is that you just have to ask. A lot of these websites, LinkedIn, Indeed, and like university के जो official job boards होती हैं, उस पे positions open up. But I never had success whenever I applied for those, and people that I know as well and that I've advised and everything, it's only when you reach out to a certain faculty member via email, and you ask them, and if they do have a position, then they will talk to you and interview you. So the process kind of like, like this is an example that I kind of created. So you can pull up a website. So this is Hopkins Key website. It's just a random like cardiovascular research institute. You look up like the principal, you look at the labs. Now this guy is like a principal investigator, this is his name. So what you're going to do is you open up his PubMed or Google Scholar, like look up his publications. This is just like the workflow of how to find somebody's email and how to reach out to them, because it's not always listed on the website. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it isn't. So you go to their papers, and then this is I pulled up like their PubMed search. I'm gonna find like papers where they're like corresponding author, which means they're last author, sometimes first author, but mostly last author. Because when they're corresponding author, then unki email likhi hoti hai. You're gonna open up that paper. So like myocardial immune cells, blah blah blah, Luigi Adamo. Niche iske yahan pe likha hoga correspondence and blah blah blah, and the email will be listed here. ladamo2@jhmi.edu. A lot of people have this on PubMed. Some people have this on the official journal publication. If you know someone in that institute, you can ask them to give you the email if you can't find it. But this is how like I used to find emails, because I don't know people in like every institute, and frankly I didn't know ophthalmology mein meri koi connections nahi thi. But this is how you do it, and then you can just send them a nice email, which I will talk about in the next few slides, asking them, introducing yourself, and this is kind of the most effective way. It takes a lot of time. If you're studying, if you are doing stuff, you actually have to take out time to like sit down and send an email. If you want to customize the email, like if there's someone who's interested in cardiac immunology research and they're like, well, I read this paper of yours and blah 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 blah, this is what I found interesting, and if you want to mention a paper and mention that in the email, then that takes even more time. I didn't do that, but people do. So that's something you guys can think about. The other way is that, so that's one, right? You look up somebody's name, you look up their lab, you go to their publications, you find their email, and then you send them an email. The second way is that you open up the website's job boards. So ye Johns Hopkins की website hai, is pe, for example, you go to jobs and you look up like on this side little bar, postdoctoral research fellow, research associate, whatever, something to do with research. Ideally, you want to look for this because sometimes the research associate and research assistant positions don't sponsor visa. Like sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So this one is like usually the one you want to look for, and you search it up and you see if anything pulls up and you can like apply for that. But a lot of times this job website stuff they don't really get back to you. The third way is through LinkedIn. So you can like search up, postdoctoral research fellow. It pulls up all these like opportunities. You click on it. You see that, what the requirements are, aap niche jaate ho, and everything, salary, everything. And I think LinkedIn has like the quick apply option. So if you have like your CV ready, you can probably do that. When I was starting off, I didn't really have like much activity on my LinkedIn. I mean, I just graduated from med school. What I was trying to say, like, I didn't have that, now because I've been in research, I have a little bit of stuff there. So if I applied now, I don't know if people would like reply to me, but back then I didn't really get any, responses us tarah se. But, this is a way that people usually apply for jobs. So, there's no harm in trying this. You can tailor it based on location, everything. And if anything, you can look up this position and, try to reach out to the PI yourself and see what's going on. So other ways you can find positions is like connections. It's very difficult to have connections, especially, unless your parents are in medicine and US mein koi kaam karte hai and they can connect you to somebody, or you have like a senior. Even if you have a senior, they might not be in a position to recommend you to their PIs, and it's very unfair to expect that from somebody that you barely know, unless they're like very close to you and they have the power. But a lot of times when you're a research fellow, you don't have the power to see who hires, to who gets hired or not. Like I cannot go up to my professor and be like, "Aap is bacche ko rakh le meri jagah," because it's not up to me. Maybe he doesn't want to hire another research fellow anymore. Maybe he's like, "I want to direct this funding somewhere else." So as a research fellow, like you don't always have that authority. Sometimes you do when you're just like one person. So it differs from lab to lab. So if ever you reach out to a senior who's in this position and they can't help you, unless they're a complete like they're mean and they're not helpful, don't judge them for it, because you never know what the lab's like. But connections help. Like I know people who are like, well, like if someone reaches out to me and I know there's a position in Wilmer, I'll be like, yes, this is the position, you can apply. Like I heard blah 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 blah. I know people who like like people told them that, well, this person might have a spot and they reached out to them. So that's kind of really helpful. I didn't have connections. It was kind of hard to navigate, but alhamdulillah, it worked out. So it's not necessary. The second way is that when you go for observerships or clinical or research electives, this is a really, really good way that when you're like either in med school or right after you finish, but before you graduate, so you're still a student. So Hopkins at least offers research electives, jo 8-9 hafton ke hote hain. It's like 8-9 weeks. You work with a mentor and you basically write and publish a paper. Now, Hopkins की website पे there's like a catalog, and you can look through which specialties offer research electives for international students and किसको आपने reach out करना है. So I would recommend you guys like now, if whoever is in like third year, fourth year, I never did this in med school because it required me to take like 8 weeks off, and I just didn't want to miss out and like skip my classes and tell someone to mark my attendance. It was just going to be I didn't want to do that, but some people do, and you can come right after you graduate as well. Tab bhi aap student consider hote ho before you've officially gotten your degree. And then a clinical elective is just like 3-4 hafton ka. So observership bhi aap kar sakte ho. So during this time, you can actually meet these people in person and form a connection. So they see that you're a real person. They don't think that, well, this person is like emailing me. I get 1,000 emails every day. Why would I, work with this guy? So when you're there in person, they see your presence, they see who you are. And after you leave, like let's say you do a research elective in fourth year, you go back and you maintain that connection with that mentor. And let's say a position opens up. Once you're done, they're like, well, I'll hire you, So that's something that's a really good way. And then, conferences. If you guys are working on research, try to submit it to conferences here. I know it's very hard to travel, it's expensive, visa issues hote and everything, but like no harm in submitting papers. And if you get a travel grant, or if you get an opportunity to come, you can meet people here and go up to people and be like, well, I read your paper, blah, blah, blah. I'd really love to work with you, and just inquire basically. So these are some other ways. Okay. Now the next part is like some application essentials. This is not particularly for the match. I'm still talking about like research. So, if you do have someone who's like, well, I'm going to hire you through this official process, aapko obviously CV chahiye hoga. You will need recommendation letters. At least I think it's good to have 3, because they will ask, and then either you get them made us time pe, that which is good, or you get them made before. It's obviously better like once you have something in hand, then you get them made, but this is something you will need. If you're done with your steps and like you have ECFMG certificate, that will be something you want to give. Sometimes people ask for a personal statement. It's not necessary, but just like, I'm just giving you guys some things that you might need. Okay, so CV formatting tips, which is obviously something people, want to know about. So you can like look up like the Harvard CV guide and any kind of like Hopkins ka CV. ये बहुत extensive होते हैं, लेकिन it gives you an idea of like how you can format your CV. You can have this is like a list of some words that you can use to describe your experiences. Like you need to, have like these, they're called action verbs. Just, that for example, I organized XYZ. You know, just whatever, like if authored this paper or led this team to publish XYZ. So you want to talk in that tense. These are just some words. I can you guys can look it up, but I can share this stuff with you later. The second thing is about formatting tips and how you can keep it as short as you can. Like you don't want to be sending, because when you guys send emails, ideally you want to attach your CV. So if somebody reads your email, they can literally just open up your CV immediately and they can look at it instead of sending you another email and going okay, send me your CV. But you can kind of attach it, and they can open it up and see, well, this person looks really good, I'll interview them. So you want to have a good structured CV that's simple, not 10 pages long, because that's just crazy. These people are so busy, they're not going to have time to look at 10 pages. A little bit of how I kind of formatted mine. So if you guys want to just have that similar perspective, but just your name, you don't need to have a photo. It doesn't need to be all fancy schmancy. You can put your phone, email. You don't have to have your address. You can have 1 to 2 lines of career objectives, and obviously you guys can refine this template, do whatever you want. This is not a set thing. You can write more details in certain sections, refine it using other examples, but just an idea, because I think when आप med school में होते हो, आपको नहीं पता होता CV कैसे लिखना है. Nobody teaches you this stuff, and then you're sitting there and you're wow, you graduate and then you're all of these real life things, nobody told me how to do them. All I know is how to open up Guyton and study from it. That's what I know. So anyway, this is just education aap apni likho, and then whatever, this current role thing is when I had a job, but when I didn't, you don't have to have that. You can put in a section for any kind of exams that you've taken, any kind of honors and awards, which could include any academic awards you guys have gotten in school, even high school se lekar university mein, any distinctions, research experience, even if it's just attending a workshop, even if it's participating in a project that, whatever, just put that under research experience. Because for your CV for research, you want to put your research first. But if for other things, you can order it in any way. But you presentations, if you have any at your stages, you usually don't have any presentations in conferences. But koi agar internal conference hoti hai, ya phir if you've given a class presentation, you can kind of put it there. If you're working on anything, current projects, any publications, if you want to add a section for submitted papers that are not published yet, you can do that. Any sort of clinical experience you have, if you did an elective, Pakistan mein kiya, kahin aur kiya, put that under one thing. And, you want to write it like this, just put something on the left and then write dates on the right and keep it very consistent. Ab maine is tarah likha hai December 2023 to present. I'm not going to write in the next box a different kind of format for the date. I'm not going to write 12/20/23. You have to keep it consistent so it looks good. Same font, font size for headings, consistent. These things really matter because, you don't want to look at it and it looks very haphazard. And then any kind of professional memberships, these societies and stuff that we have, even in Pakistan, is, again, this section is not important. It's a plus or minus. Volunteer activities, we usually have a lot of those in Pakistan, and it looks good on your CV. So I would recommend get involved and, do these things. Languages, and hobbies and interests. And if you guys want to add a section for leadership, and extracurriculars, leadership is pretty important, I think. If you're a batch representative, if you led a seminar, or if you're leading some kind of society, it shows okay, this person, these are qualities they look for in a future resident. So this is something you guys want to think about. Okay. Recommendation letters. This is just a letter that I had for one of my research positions. जो मैंने पाकिस्तान से एक professor से sign करवाया था. I wrote these drafts myself because professors usually don't have time to write you one. I mean, it's been like some time, so I don't know if now I would write the same thing, but this is an example that I kind of wanted to show you guys. मैं भेज सकती हूँ सबको बाद में, you know, if it helps you guys format a letter and you can refine it. But this is just something, you know, that I wrote like specific things that, you know, I talked about how this professor was like, unka kya role tha? He's like an ophthalmology professor for the last 42 years. And then I talked a little bit about thoda sa apne, you know, you have to kind of like tarif yourself, which is funny, but this is something you kind of will have to do even for residency. Sometimes your mentor will be like, send me a draft, like this happened to me as well. So you have to kind of know what goes into a letter. You want to describe what role this person had in your life, just like, you know, any kind of like skills. This professor took my viva in fourth year as well, and you know, he like I remember these anecdotes, right? Like the professor will not remember that वो तो कितने students को mentor करते हैं, उन्होंने अगर मुझे, he gave me the highest marks in the viva, he's not going to remember that probably, although he did, but you know what I mean? Like there's so many people they see. So these little things from your teachers, from your mentors, like daily interactions mein hoti hai, remember them, put them down somewhere, because later on when you write your recommendation letters, when you write your MSPE, which is your medical school performance evaluation, all these things you will use those to write those things. You're not going to sit there and think about, oh shit, मैंने third year में या fourth year में ward में क्या किया था, मैं क्या लिखूं. That time you're going to be like blanking out. So try to remember कि कौन सी presentation दी थी आपने, what cases you guys had, you know, just these little things. So you can put it into these things later on in your career. So anyway, just like I wrote like a pretty detailed letter. I was required to submit this when I got accepted for the position. So that's just an example of something you guys might need. Okay, so that's a CV recommendation letter. Now, how to write an email. I get this so much. I have to like make a video about this. But people ask me so much, कि किस तरह लिखनी email and all of that. So again, this is an example. I'm sure you guys can do a much better job. Back when I was writing emails and sending emails, first of all, I wasn't like personalizing each email to that much of an extent. I know people who write like specific research bits for, you know, that particular mentor. Aap kar sakte ho, that's great, but like I didn't have all the time in the world. It was, you know, it's really not easy to do this, even if you have a template, because you sit there, you target, like the way I would say you guys should do it is that, okay, let's say that you make a list of universities. I'll talk about this later, but you make a list of universities, and you're like, okay, these are the universities that have had IMGs, let's say, in the past, or are well-versed on research, have funding. I'm going to target one university every day. One university's website, you pull up the faculty, you go through the faculty, and you're like, okay, this person is involved in research. I'm going to write them an email. You find their emails, you send emails. This whole process is very draining. It takes time and it's just very tedious. So I didn't customize them. So subject line aapne likhni hai zarur ki inquiry about research opportunity in XYZ in the department of blah, 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 or like a specific topic. You're going to refer to them with their last name. You write whatever. I hope this email finds you well. My name is XYZ. This is, you know, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing to express my interest and inquire about this at the Wills Eye Hospital. If you've done your exams, that's fine. If you haven't, you can say, I am currently a fourth year medical student in XYZ Medical University, and I aspire to pursue radiology residency in the United States in the near future, for example. And I'm currently, you know, seeking whatever your goal is. This is just like some, you know, filler stuff. Like I don't know if it's needed. Honestly, मैंने उस वक्त लिखा था कि I would be actively involved. I'll give you 110%. And then I said I attached my CV with my step reports because उस वक्त मैंने कर दिए हुए थे, so I attached everything. Some people say not to attach stuff because it filters out the email, but honestly, like I think you should at least attach your CV because it's just something that they might look at. And then, you just like thank them. You say that I feel like this line is important when you're looking for research, that I'm willing to commit for at least 1 year, because up less than that, it's very, very difficult to, develop that connection, develop that mentorship, and publish anything with that particular person कि वो आपके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा strong letter लिखें. It's just like, very, very difficult. 1 year is such a short time. It takes you like 6 months to adjust, and then you cannot publish so quickly unless you have like ready-made projects. At least in my research, it wasn't like that. And my PI, when I met him, he told me that he was like happy that I understood it requires commitment of at least like 1 to 2 years. Anyway, then you thank them and then you just sign off, okay? And if you're like just to like offshoot, if you're tailoring this email for an observership, if you're tailoring it for something else, you just like edit that part, right? That I'm inquiring about an observership opportunity, for example, and I want to do this. Like basically you can tailor it. You guys, I'm pretty sure you're pretty smart to figure that out. This is another example for what I was saying, observership opportunity. आप उसमें बस लिख देते हो request for an observership, and it's the same thing. I said that I have an interest in obtaining an observership with you, XYZ, for a duration of 2 to 3 weeks in this month. This is what I've done. This is what I'm doing as I aspire to pursue residency. I believe in observership with you, blah, 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 would significantly contribute to my, all of that, jargon that you have to say. And I mean, so I was seeking out observerships with people that I really looked up to in ophthalmology. जिन लोगों का मुझे पता था, तो मैंने उस हिसाब से ढूंढे थे लोग. Because उस वक्त I didn't have a research opportunity at hand. And this is why I was like, until I'm looking for it, I'm going to go do observerships. This is what I told you guys. And in that period, I might find something, I might not, but my backup is my observerships karo, and then I can figure it out what to do. And so in a way that worked out, because then I got my clinical experience bit out of the way before applying for residency. And in something like ophthalmology, not a lot of IMGs have clinical experience because they join immediately after, या फिर वो research में लगे रहते हैं, and they don't have time to do that. So that really helped that I had done different rotations, and I did them with really great people who were known in ophthalmology, because ophthalmology is it's kind of a smaller community, so people kind of know each other. So I would say that if you want to work with somebody, don't just work with them to get your foot through the door. Part of the reason should be that, but also you should be inspired by them. Even if, like, let's say, if you take the equation out, कि like, मुझे letter नहीं मिलेगा, let's say, hypothetically think about it this way. If I go work with this person and I don't get a letter and I don't get anything, will I be resentful, or will I be like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to see this person and work with them? If you're not feeling that way, then, you might as well just work with anyone, right? You want to work with someone where you're back, like when you're like 40, you can look back and be like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I rotated with this legend, like that's kind of what you want to think about. Someone whom you're inspired by, कि इस बंदे ने इस field में research की थी और मुझे उसके साथ observership करनी है. Because that just, builds that genuine connection, and it shows passion for like your field. This is another example. I'll send you guys all of this because I know it's like hard to, focus on this during a webinar, but this is another way of doing it. You kind of like list your credentials like this, briefly, blah, blah, blah. This is another like person that I know. उसने मेरे format को थोड़ा modify किया था. This is someone I was mentoring. So I kind of liked what they did. So, you kind of like listed in bullet points, which is nice because I don't have to open up his CV to see all these little things, but he also attached his CV. And then, he customized it that I read your publication on XYZ, with this sparked my interest in ophthalmology. So, you kind of want to like, you can say that. But if you say something like this, then if ever you get the chance to speak to them, make sure you've read this paper because, you don't want to be performative. But yeah, anyway, this is another example for like how to write an email. Okay, this is really important. You don't want to matlab, CC everyone on the faculty in that same email. Send them separately. Don't repeatedly send them. If someone doesn't reply, wait for 2 to 3 weeks, send a follow-up. But if they don't reply, just don't take it personally. Probably, सबने आपको बताया होगा कि like आप जितनी 1,000 emails में से आपको like बस 10 responses आते होंगे. But it's because like they're very busy. Your emails are from an external system. They might not see them, and it doesn't mean you're not good enough. One of three things can happen. They can reply to you and say, let's have a chat. They can reply to you and say, you sound amazing, but I don't have funding. So do you have a way to fund yourself? And the third thing, they can say that I'm sorry, but like I have no opportunities available. Good luck. And lastly, they can kind of ghost you, which is okay because these guys are so busy. Like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean you're a bad applicant. It is what it is. If I tell you guys, out of like the emails that I sent, the one person who actually like followed up with me was my PI, who ended up going like, let's chat. Baki sab, whoever replied to me would be like, oh yeah, let's chat, whatever. But it never like followed through. And it was one of the first 10 emails I sent out of like a whim. Like maine usko, like it was a template and I just like edited some stuff and I just started sending emails. It was the first 10 emails out of the hundreds that I sent. And he was the one who actually interviewed me, gave me a shot. And when I came to the US, main unse mili thi. That was also a risk that I took. And he ended up like hiring me when I had no background in his research. So it's just like, I know people you talk to, they'll be like, oh, you have to send 1,000 emails and this and that. But it takes one email. It takes one person to talk to you and think that, okay, I can teach this kid and I can like mentor them and I see potential. And then that potential turns into something, and that's what matters. So, don't be discouraged when you see, because you will see people who have 300 citations, who have 100 publications, abise, because, and you'll be like, oh my God, like am I good enough? Like I can't do that. You don't need to do that. And I'm sorry if someone is doing that, what kind of quality of research are they publishing? And if you're not like enjoying your life and if you're doing that, kudos, and you're enjoying your life, that's great. But this is not everything. So, don't feel discouraged, because it's very easy to see what's on the outside, but there's a lot that goes on behind that. Okay. So part 4 is like some practical insights that people might not tell you. Visa stuff, money, and like life. Okay, because again, I hope that this helps you guys. So for rotations, you mostly need visa that's called B1, B2, unless you're a citizen or you have a green card. या फिर अगर आपके पास कोई British passport है, then you have like this a leeway that you can come to the US without a visa. But so you need this for rotations. Research mostly आपको J1 पे मिलती है. It's a J1 exchange visitor visa. It's different from the J1 clinical visa that you do residency on. So your for example, there's you guys might have heard people talk about this. It's called a 2-year home country requirement. Which is technically that after your training, you're required to go back to your home country before you can apply for any sort of like immigration process in the United States. And in order to not do that, you do like something called a waiver. You essentially waive that to your home country requirement, and you serve in an underserved part of the US for 3 years. So you'll go to like a smaller city, and you will work there and stuff, for 3 years, and then you can apply for a green card or whatever. So wo J1 visa, but it's different. So when you're on a research visa, you usually don't have that 2-year home country requirement. And you can only stay on a J1 research visa, and you can only stay as a postdoctoral research fellow for 5 years. 5 saal ke baad, because it's a training position. So 5 saal ke baad, you either have to be promoted or you have to match or like, go somewhere. Like you can't always be a postdoc. So they either promote you or you have to switch your other position, because sometimes people go unmatched a couple of cycles. So then they're time as a research fellow increases. So you have to kind of like put that into perspective. I'm sure it won't happen to you guys, but like, because 2-3 saal aapko research ke chahiye hote hain. So that's the J1. H1B is an immigrant visa. It's a visa through which you can directly apply for the green card. Ophthalmology में ये बहुत मुश्किल से मिलता है because especially now, I think with the whole fee stuff, which is so complicated, programs ko to J1 visa ke baare mein bhi nahi pata hota. Like, I was here and there were programs who would be like, oh, like, hum log, like, stupid reasons for why they cannot interview me. When the J1 process is very easy, especially when you're already on a research visa, you just do a change of category in the US. So H1B, internal medicine, and like a couple of like other programs, वो sponsor कर देते हैं. इसके लिए आपको step 3 चाहिए होता है. अगर आपने step 3 दे दिया, then you can like tell your program that like मुझे H1B sponsor कर दे. You can ask them, and that's why people take step 3, and it's a very smart thing to do. Honestly, Hopkins usually doesn't sponsor H1B for ophtho because ophthalmology is an integrated program now. So intern year hota hai aur 3 saal residency ke ikatthe hote hain. So all 4 years for me will be at Hopkins. And so the intern year program has to sponsor the H1B. They have to be willing to do it, but they're not. So ophthalmology ke abhi jo IMGs hain, there's one person on a J1. The other guy has a green card, but the other people in the past, वो लोग उनको H1B मिला था because their internal medicine program in another hospital gave it to them. So, like, I know a lot of people from Pakistan jinko mil jata hai. So that's a visa you guys can think about. In retrospect, my step 3 shy time se de deti, main leverage kar leti, but I had so much to worry about that I didn't really, think about all this stuff back then. So khair, that's H1B. Then you have the green card pathways. So one advantage of doing research is that you can, once you have a good number of publications, ek saal mein, let's say, aap green card pathways pursue kar sakte ho. I'm not going to go into this in detail in this webinar, but there are two. You guys can maybe look it up. They're EB1 and EB2. Okay, so this is basically you're kind of leveraging that to the US government that I'm an asset to the country. Because I'm contributing to research, I'm doing this, and like मैं आपकी like scientific उसको बढ़ा रहा हूँ या बढ़ा रही हूँ, and so like I deserve like and blah blah blah, like immigration, whatever. So you apply for that. You usually have to go through a firm like lawyers, immigration lawyers. It's an expensive process. So one of the pathways is faster. The other pathway takes a little bit of time. That one is cheaper. It doesn't really cost that much. And you can like, immigration firms usually can split the payments for you over a period of months. So if you're earning and you're in a funded position, you can maybe do it. Or you can ask your parents, whatever. I didn't do any of these because if there's like some nuances to this, if you pursue one of these pathways, then you are not eligible for a J1 anymore because J1 is a non-immigrant visa. So if you have an intention to immigrate to the country, like which means get a green card, तो वो automatically आपको J1 के लिए नहीं consider करते. So if I were to not get my green card on time, तो मुझे programs ना रखते because वो मुझे J1 नहीं दे सकते. So I didn't want to get into that. But a lot of people plan their journeys ahead of time. मुझे ये चीजें नहीं पता थी when I first came उस तरह से. They do the EB2 या EB1 very very early on. तो जब तक उनकी residency का time आता है, उनको green card मिल जाता है, which is something that's going to help you if you're pursuing a competitive specialty. So अगर आप 2 साल लगा ही रहे हो research में, you might as well get this, and then matching into ophthalmology, radiology, surgery becomes a little bit easier because आजकल especially ये लोग visa वाली चीजों से ना, they get very like, oh my god, like, because the thing is like program directors don't know the nitty gritties of this visa stuff. They're all like, unless they're an IMG, right? So they get scared. They're like, oh shit, like we're gonna have to give visa. We're not interviewing visa requiring candidates at all. At least ophthalmology mein aisa hai ki like most of them just use this excuse. Ki, you don't want to give them any excuse. You want to have the research, you want to have the scores, you want to have everything, you want to have the green card. So they have no choice but to take you into their program. So green card is something you guys might want to think about. It helps a lot. Like, I think if I had one, I would have had more interviews for ophthalmology. It, at least for ophthalmology, it makes a lot of difference. So that's something. And then finally, like, there's something called F1 visa, which is a student visa. This is like via an advanced degree. So like kuch log aate hain who pursue like an MPH, a master's in public health, or they want to get into a PhD program, so, or any kind of other masters. So they come on F1s, and then they work on a different kind of visa for like research, and uske baad they apply for residency. So that's a pathway. Like, if you can afford coming for a degree, if your goal is to be in public health, even though you don't need a degree for that, but let's say you're like, I want to study epidemiology, you want to come, you apply for an MPH, you graduate, you're on an F1 visa, then you get something called like an OPT, which is just like a temporary visa for students, and you can work on that visa for 2 years. So that's another pathway people usually pursue, but again, it's based on your goals. It's not like I can't be like, yes, you need an MPH to match or you need a PhD to match. If you want to become a research scientist, you want that PhD, that is wonderful. If you want to invest that time, that's great. Is it a requirement to match? I don't think so, but that's what I have seen. Okay. So let's talk about like timeline. I think you guys should start searching for research positions around, like, if you want to start immediately after med school and you don't want to do house job, for example, then you start searching at least like 6 to 8 months before. I would say like 8 months. Yeah, ek saal pehle bhi kar lo, it's pretty good. But 8 months is a good time, because if you do get one, visa process to us a time, it takes about 3 to 4 months for that. So just to give you guys perspective, I talked to my PI for the first time in March, and then I met him in person in August, and then उसके बाद मेरा एक और उनके साथ meeting हुई थी, and I finally like got my contract and my offer letter officially, because even if he wanted me, it depended on the HR. So they don't guarantee you anything until like everything is done, everything is checked, background check ho gaya, sab kuch ho gaya, like that. That's how it worked for me, at least. And then I think December 1st को मैंने जाके शुरू किया था. So March से December, and I was searching I actually started searching right around like March, April time here, I think. So it's just like the timeline is quite like long. So you want to kind of start searching well ahead in time if you know what you want to do. How to prepare is like, generally just make sure कि अगर आपने exams अपने दे दिए, that's fine. Make sure you have like certain basic research skills. Try to learn some kind of statistical software, all that stuff we talked about. Learn how to write an email, have like things, have your CV, have everything ready. अगर आपको भेजने की ज़रूरत है, you should have it on hand. Things you should have when you graduate. This is really important because in residency, you will need this stuff. So obviously, like, apply for your degrees, get them, apply for your transcripts. Those you might need when you're, applying for your research positions and getting them, your medical school transcript. And then jo MSP hoti hai, which is the medical school performance evaluation. I don't know how it works for Shifa, but for us, like, hame usually हम student section को एक application लिख के देते हैं, and then they know what to do already. But then for people who want to go to the US, we usually get like a customized one where we draft paragraphs for each ward that we had, each rotation by ourselves. Then we have to go to the HODs, get them approved and signed based on our ward cards and everything. And then come back to the student section, type it up. It's like a 7-page document. It contains your medical school information. It contains your core rotations and stuff like that, your extracurricular activities, and what quartile of your class do you fall in. It's a format. So that being said, MSP is something, at least for us, हमें in person मैंने करवाया था सब कुछ. I couldn't, because if I left, the professors might not have remembered me. So I wanted, and like people change, HODs change. So someone who was the HOD when I was in final year might not be HOD anymore. So I had to go get these things done in person, and I couldn't rely on someone else कि मैं किसी junior को भेजूं, किसी को भेजूं, because मैं पाकिस्तान में नहीं थी. If you have, my family doesn't like live there, so if you have people in Pakistan, आप पाकिस्तान में ही रहते हो, then that's easier for you. But I would recommend doing it as soon as you graduate, so you can do it in person, because it's kind of like khwari ka kaam. Aap jate ho her HOD ke paas. Maybe you guys have a more streamlined pathway, but for KE, it's annoying. You have to like find professors. Pata nahi hota wo kab aayenge, and then you have to go and wait for them in their offices. So it's a whole process, but you have to keep that ready because you will need it for your residency when you apply. And I know people will tell you med school grades don't matter, but I will tell you they do matter. Please do not like F up your med school grades. Don't be like, many steps dene ke liye, I'm going to get supplies and I'm going to fail my ward tests and things. Please don't do that, because if your professors refuse to sign in like the honors part for your like wards because you failed a ward test, or it's going to reflect really badly. If you fall in the bottom quartile of your class, that's not going to look good, because MSPE does matter. Like mujhe, at least for ophthalmology, मेरे interview में उन्होंने मेरे से Hopkins की एक faculty है, उन्होंने मेरी MSPE पढ़ी थी, and she commented on the fact that I had good grades. And back then, I used to feel very like, I used to feel like, acha, people, in order to take my steps in fourth year, I'm going to have to sacrifice attending my ward. I'm going to have to sit in the reading room and these kinds of things all day. And I'm going to have to sacrifice my social life. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do well in med school. I wanted good grades. And I was very happy that I did that, and it paid off, because everyone else, like, they used to say that people who studied, up to zyada trend ho gaya, you guys like are easily up to step on le lete ho. But us waqt, like not many people had done it. And I didn't want to be that person. I want to make memories with my friends, and I don't regret it. I would highly encourage everyone, don't miss out on your university events. Don't miss out on life. Trust me, you're going to look back and be like, I wish I did more. Like, ye padhai wali cheezein to chalti rehti hain. Your whole life, it's going to be like this. So just with the MSPE, please don't do, I'm not saying you need to get distinctions or whatever, but of course that's great, but do well. Don't mess it up, because your concepts will make you stand out when you do your rotations, because we study in a more detailed way. Aapko pata chalega when you come here, you will see that compared to the American medical students, you guys are more knowledgeable, and use that to your advantage. It will help you. And then for your duration of the research, it depends. So you should have it, at least 1 year in mind. So just to like, find aapne med school kiya, aapne 2 saal research ke kiye, for example, in your second year, you apply for residency, and then aap match karte ho, aur phir agle saal aap like start karte residency. So this is how it was for me. So by the time I am going to start, I would have done 2.5 years of research, technically. I know people who've matched into ophthalmology with just 1 year of research, but her scenario was completely different. She's my classmate, but it was completely different. She had like a green card, and like Iowa mein uski connections us tarah se thi, so she didn't go through that traditional pathway. But most people I know in ophthalmology at least do 2 se 3 saal ki research karte hain, if not more. Surgery as well, people do at least 2. Everything. Internal medicine के लिए काफी लोग like unmatched जाके वो research position start कर देते हैं, और वो बिल्कुल उसी 6 महीने बाद application शुरू कर देते हैं, which is fine, but I think that doesn't give the mentor enough time to know you. Like आप खुद सोचो, आप अगर January में शुरू करते हो and then in July you're applying, that just gives you 6 months to develop such a strong connection with your mentor that they vouch for you, they call people up for you, they write you a strong letter. So you guys should keep this like timeline in mind. Okay. Part 5 is like about like the life and benefits. This is just like, I guess it's just a balancing act. Okay. Like when you move, unless you move with like someone, not a lot of people have the privilege, to move abroad alone. If you can, as a girl especially, highly recommend do that. Live your life a little bit, learn about yourself, explore. मुझे पता है मुश्किल होती है for some families, like people are like, we don't want to send our daughter because, like, शादी करके भेजेंगे or whatever. But like, honestly, like, I feel like it's so important to your growth as a girl to do that before you get into something like that. And equally for guys, you want to come here, you want to learn how to live with yourself away from your, like, parents and the comfort. And Pakistan mein har cheez available at 24/7. I think that leads to growth, and that's very important. And you know it's a struggle, so you have to kind of like balance life, you have to balance work, friends, sab kuch khud karna padta hai. But it's also a lot of fun. You have so much autonomy, and it's really, really, it's an experience that you will never get in your life. So if you're someone who likes to travel, who likes to explore, I would say that if you get the opportunity, definitely try to live on your own for a little bit. So what my day looks like in research now, and for the past 2.5 years, it's just a mixture of like lab meetings and recruitment and research, like reading articles. I beach me when I was applying for the match, I started shadowing one of the faculty members in his clinic. तो ये भी आपका एक advantage होता है कि जब आप research position में होते हो, then if you need some clinical experience, you can request your PI. And I mean, a lot of PIs are more forgiving. And they will let you spend a lot of time in the clinic or in the OR, whatever you want to do, in order to build that kind of connection with a certain individual. So you can incorporate that during your research. You have conferences that you can attend. That's fun. So, it's a lot of like data collection, cleaning, lit review, articles per now. For me, I work in retinal vascular research, and we do a lot of like retinal imaging with OCT angiography. So it's a lot of imaging, a lot of like exporting those images, analyzing them. Patients को recruit करना, उनको like image करना, and all of that. So it's a lot of fun. It's things that I would have never been able to learn in Pakistan because OCT is not such a big thing there at the moment. Research तो खैर मुश्किल से होती है properly, except for like Aga Khan and stuff. So it's in government institutes, it's very tough. I didn't have any background in OCT and geography. And even though Mayo Hospital has one of the largest tertiary care ophthalmology centers, I don't think we have or maybe we have one OCT machine. I don't even know. But I didn't even know this existed when I graduated, and we study ophthalmology as a subject. So, like maine bilkul without background on this stuff, I looked into it, I applied for it. I found it interesting, and my professor like trained me. He gave me the first 6 months. I did a lot of reading. I learned things, and he didn't expect me to know everything about his work. He has the experience of an MD, PhD, and he didn't expect me, because I was like, oh shit, like, how is this guy like, I had such a big imposter syndrome that how is this guy taking me when he could have taken someone who has experience in this field? But that's not what they want. They want like good mentors. They want to like, they see somebody who has potential, and they want to like, help you grow into like someone. And in the future, inshallah, like let's say if I go into retina as an ophthalmologist, then he would be the main person. And I think even to this day, I'm like, man, this guy gave me an opportunity when nobody did. I was nobody. I was an international student he had never met, he didn't know, and he spoke to me at the airport in the middle of his flights. He was going somewhere, and I was like so grateful, because यहाँ पे professors को beg करना पड़ता है in Pakistan to actually even speak to you. And he was making me feel special. He was like, no, how would I get to talk to students like you if I didn't do this? And I was like, man, this guy's at the airport and he's taking time to interview me, which is something you will notice a lot in the mentors here. And you will like find that academic fulfillment that you might not have seen in Pakistan. Not to shit on Pakistan. I love that. I love Pakistan. I love everything about the medical, education we receive, except for how certain things are done, and kuch system mein jo faults hain. Even though here I don't go and tell everybody about this, but I really wish that like we can improve that, because I crave that in med school, someone to look up to. And it was very difficult to find mentors who didn't want to compete with you, who who didn't discourage you from everything. So you will find great mentorship here. Um, yeah, benefits आपको जो मिलेंगे from research is, I already mentioned this stuff, like the mentor-mentee relationship that you will develop for your entire life. And funnily enough, it's the non-Desi mentors that are going to help you out, not a lot of even the Pakistani faculty in ophthalmology, at least. इतनी कोई वो help नहीं करता आपके. I hope inshallah that like my class and like people who are in my generation, or like people who've matched before me, we're different. I really hope so. Like we're trying कि हम बेहतर हों उनसे. But it's going to be, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Some people do end up with a lot of toxic mentors, so you have to be very, very careful. And people will tell you when you do research, pick somebody who's like, a good mentor, but you can never know until you start doing that research. Unless somebody has worked with them before, या अगर आपको कोई opportunity किसी institute से मिल रही है, you should like reach out to someone you know who's maybe a resident there, who's done research there, or someone in the US, and be like, well, I want to know, like, let's say you guys, someone applies for ophthalmology, and you know, and you guys don't know me, I was trying to say, but I'm in ophthalmology, but you'll email me and ask me, well, this person reached out to me, and I can ask around and tell you how this person is as a mentor to an IMG. So like doing that helps. But at the time, for me, I add my personal anecdotes because I feel like it helps a lot, so that you guys know that this is real. I'm not making this shit up. But with my professor, he mentors a lot of people, PhD students, med students, grad students, but he had never taken in an IMG before to mentor them into residency here in the US. That's an expectation you have to make clear when you interview with them, that when they ask you, that I am not going to do research forever. I'm going to do research, and then my aim is to match, and you will be required to really, really support me. So I didn't know whether he would until the time came. I had to take a chance. I didn't know if he was like how he was as a mentor. People told me, oh, you should work with people who have taken IMGs before. But the thing is, like, not a lot of IMGs apply into ophthalmology, and there's very few mentors. वही same mentors. मुझे नहीं पता था कि Wilmer में there is one professor who has mentored a couple of IMGs, and this is the person I need to reach out to. I was just reaching out based on my interest in the things that I was seeing. And I took a chance, I prayed to Allah Ta'ala. I, was like, okay, ye opportunity mere paas aayi hai. I am not going to, I'm going to take a chance. And when I did get it, mujhe baad mein pata chala ki apparently, like, his hiring process is really competitive. There are a lot of people from Aga Khan who had their eyes on that position because they already knew about it. He was interviewing people from K, like Ikar banda tha, I think Mera Junior. And I didn't know all this stuff. Maybe if I did, I would have been nervous, but I just went in there. I was just myself, and alhamdulillah, like it worked out. But I had like zero like expectation out of this because it was so unpredictable. So I think that if someone's giving you a chance and they haven't worked with an IMG before, but they're telling you they're going to support you, these people don't bullshit. They're not going to take on an opportunity, at least the good ones, that they cannot fulfill. So even to the last day when I was applying for my match, mujhe nahi pata tha what would happen. So you just have to have a lot of faith in that, and you're going to have a lot of like good impact on your career. It's going to frame who you are, what kind of doctor you're going to be, and you're going to learn how to do research properly for the first time in your life. Okay. So just like a rough monetary breakdown for the pay scale, in terms of like positions, I would recommend all of you to target funded positions. I know people say it's difficult in this day and age, but मैं जानती हूँ लोगों को जिनको मिली हैं. And a lot of times people who match, they leave their positions. You guys are, mashallah, all so smart, so wonderful. I have no doubt that you deserve to be paid to work. Don't ever think that like, oh, I'm an IMG, unless you come from generational wealth and you're like, whatever, if I need to do unpaid for like 2 years, I can live in the US, I can be comfortable, that's okay. That is great. If your parents can support you for a little bit, where you're like, chalo, I'm willing to do unpaid for 6 months. If I don't find anything, And then once my foot's in the door, I will figure out कि मैं उधर से US पहुंच के I like figure out मैं किस किस को funding के लिए like मैं email करूँ लोगों को. But don't like go in there with that mindset. When you email people, you don't mention it then, but when they talk to you and they ask you about funding, that's when you say that, well, I would prefer a funded position, but I'm willing to consider other options if they're available. But at the end of the day, inshallah, like aim that you find something that's paid, because it is really hard to work without an incentive. You're working a lot, you know, it's like it would be nice if you're living here, you have your own money, you can do things. So, you know, try to do that. If when you're a research fellow, तो एक NIH का pay scale होता है. ये मैंने update नहीं किया, but 2026 का मुझे नहीं पता क्या है, but so with the first initial base salary, it's around this much before taxes. And you know, this is pretty decent if you live in like not an expensive state, then this is pretty good. They, you know, you can afford rent and all of that stuff. And you know, taxes be hote, which is really annoying. But the good thing is when you're on a J1 visa initially, because Pakistan has this treaty with the US, so the first 2 years you're exempt from it. So जब आप अपने tax returns file करते हो, वो सारे पैसे जो कटते हैं ना आपको वापस मिल जाते हैं, which is savings in a way. So that's just for the first 2 years, which is really nice. But these are like kind of the salaries if someone is paying you full time. Sometimes people do like half funded positions. They'll be funded by 1-2 people. Some people are only partially funded. They will only have 50% funding. Some people are not funded, but they will have to have like a letter from their home institute or like their parents' company, whatever, that we will be funding this person, because it's a requirement for J1 visa to provide like some sort of like support for yourself. So these are just like salaries. Increase थोड़ी सी होती हैं per year, but honestly depends on your PI and it's not that significant. In terms of like rent and things, I can tell you guys about like the East Coast where I am. It's honestly, it's not, rent is the worst thing ever to have to pay in my opinion, but it ranges from like, you know, depending on the kind of place you want to live in, safety wise. A lot of guys don't care and they live in like 4-bedroom houses, and you know, they live with like people and they don't care. I cared about my personal space a lot. I want to live on my own. But if you have roommates, if you have like a 2-bedroom that you split, you know, it can work out. So it ranges between, I would say, like you can go as low as $1,000 a month if you live in like, you know, not an apartment complex and just like a house, a townhouse, or उसमें आप pay कर रहे हो, to like about 2,000 plus, like depends on where you are, right? In like Midwest, which is like kind of like Michigan or ये वाले जो areas हैं बीच में, उसमें सस्ता है ज़्यादा. Texas वगैरह सस्ता है. Florida, थोड़े से जो Florida के कुछ areas and those are cheaper. East, like Baltimore is relatively Maryland, where Hopkins is. It's good. It's relatively like you can get really good apartments. But it's also not like taxes idhar hain zyada. New York is very expensive, obviously. DC is a little expensive. So it's ye wale jo East Coast ke schools hain thode se like you have to like rent thoda sa zyada ho jata hai. And then you know you have like a little bit of your like utility bills. I'm just gonna monetary breakdown rough de deti hu. They'll range from around, which is like your gas and electricity, like usually ek bande ke liye under $100. So like $60 to $80 per month. Internet would be like 50 a month. Uske alawa, I think your phone bill would be around 50 to 60 a month. So like, you know, just roughly like that's kind of what it is. Your food, your groceries for one person, I think, you know, you can manage and it doesn't cost that much. Like groceries ke $200 side pe rakh lo. And then transport. If you live in a place where there's good public transport, then that's wonderful. People who live in states where you need cars, so you have to have a car, and that adds to expenses. I think, you know, people lease cars and all of those things. These are very adult stuff. I don't mean to like scare you guys or anything, but you don't need a car. I don't have a car right now, at least. A lot of universities, like if you stay close by, they have their own shuttle services, so you can use their buses and shuttle services and stuff to commute. The other public transport systems in the US are pretty good. Like if you want to travel from one state to another, especially along the East Coast, like you have trains and buses. Like, if I want to go to New York, I can easily take a train. It's super close. Um, थोड़ा सा, like I think दूसरे states में मसला थोड़ा सा होता है, but there's still like buses going. So, it's not a big deal. Okay. So this is just the end, I guess. What I wish I knew earlier maybe was that I don't need to have both of my steps done in order to search for research positions. I think I started my search a little later. I'm glad that I got my position at the perfect time. When exams de diye the, I wouldn't change that. But that's one thing I wish I had started searching early, because mujhe lagta tha ki I need to have better credentials in order to apply. Like MBBS ke saath khali mein nahi kar sakti, but you can. I wish that I knew that I could pursue like alternate pathways, in the sense that I could get a master's, I could get whatever, like, because I would have personally liked to be in grad school over here, because the learning environment in universities here is just amazing, and I would have really enjoyed that. It's not something that I would have needed, but like it was something that but now I'm like now in this pathway already, so I can't be like naming a master's for now. But that was a backup. If I didn't match, I was like, okay, you know what, like I'll consider doing something like that, just because I can learn and do other things. I wish that I had like a stronger baseline starting with research. Like in med school, I hadn't completely figured out that I want to do ophthalmology. I knew that this was something I loved, but I wanted to study medicine, surgery, and other subjects, and I loved everything. So it was really hard to pick one thing. But not until house job, when I worked as a house surgeon, did I finally confirm that this is what I want to do. Because when you're a student, it's very different. So I wanted to know what it would be like if I am actually in the shoes of like a person who's working as a doctor and, assisting in surgeries. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this shit is so cool. Like I want to do this forever. And the people that I met in ophthalmology were very inspiring. I wanted to be inspired. I didn't want to be bitter like all the surgeons around me. I didn't want to be, and I wanted to be happy in life. And that's what I saw, that even though they worked so hard, they loved what they did. Even here, they were so multidimensional. And that's the kind of person I am and I wanted to be. I didn't want to be, constantly just be, because when you're in med school, you think you have to choose the most difficult thing for yourself that makes you so miserable to be successful. That there was a time where I was like, I want to be a pediatric cardiothoracic surgeon, because that's something people don't know. Like there's not many people like that. And, I'm going to be so busy and like blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that, oh my God, that's actually not success. Like that's I'm going to be miserable, and I like doing so much more in life. And khair mera interest usse khatam ho gaya tha. I was like, there's not much left to do in cardiac surgery, because a lot of it is discovered. Ophthalmology is something I feel like there's so much that we don't know about the retina, about like transplanting eyes, like curing blindness. I was like, there's a niche in, where I can actually fill, especially in Pakistan. There's not many US trained ophthalmologists, and I wanted to do something that makes me stand out. And I loved the microsurgery, and all of that fell into that. But, I realized then that I don't need to be miserable. I have to work really hard for a long time. But the people around me are so happy. They inspire me in a lot of ways. They're not bitter. They're not condescending. They don't make you feel like because you're a woman, you can't do surgery. Like it's just like I didn't want to deal with that. Or be in a field where like there's so many women around you that they make you feel smaller because, like the culture in gynecology and stuff like that. So anyway, like that's one thing. I wish I started with like a significant research baseline, so that I didn't have to build my publications from scratch, which is okay. Like, it's fine. But if I started with like 10 already, I wouldn't worry about like numbers, So because ophthalmology mate needed like, they advised that I needed a minimum of 10 before I applied. So if you're starting from scratch, it's difficult. So, I wish I had like a better baseline. And other than that, honestly, like these are I think maybe the green card stuff, I wish I had prepared for that a little bit. So, it's not a big deal. Alhamdulillah, like I don't know, but I was visa requiring in ophthalmology. It's kind of, this year it was a little bit difficult, but I did match despite that. But I think वो फिर J1 का process बहुत लंबा हो जाता है. Until I finish residency, I can't apply for a green card no matter what. So, that bit is like a little bit woe, but it's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I'm not so obsessed with getting a US passport or a green card. The only thing it would do would make my life easier with respect to travel, which is what I care about. So those are some things I wish I knew. I guess biggest lessons I learned is, that main thing is that the grass is greener where you water it, because you will look at other people and you will think they have it better, or that, oh wow, like is bande ki to, like their research hui hai, ya phir this person matched, or this person is doing this in med school, or comparison is the thief of joy. Don't do that to yourself. Like, I know it's hard. We are in such a competitive environment that even to this day, I had to struggle every single day in research too, because being in an institute like Hopkins, and in general, when you come to the US to any program, you feel like you don't belong here because you're from an outside system and you're like, why did they pick me? But remember that they pick you for a reason. They're not pitying you or anything, right? And you need to start to like look inwards and just compare yourself to your former self. Don't compare yourself to anyone else in a bad way that puts you down, because the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you think about yourself and what you aim for, that is what's going to take you forward. That confidence, when you interview with people, that confidence needs to come up. It doesn't have to be like, oh my god, I'm such a timid, like IMG from Pakistan, I don't know what's going on. You want to be confident but not overconfident. And like, just in general, like, life is very long, inshallah, for everybody. And ek do saal don't matter at all. Like, pehle mere mind mein bahut dafa, I know I already said this, but during this time you will have people, you will have like thoughts where you're like, man, like, why did I pursue this? Like, I could have just मैं internal medicine में अभी apply कर लेती हूँ and मेरा match हो जाएगा. Like, what's the point, And then you're away from your family and you're spending the most significant time of your life away from them, and what you get, like a few days in the whole year vacation time, like, 2-3 हफ्ते आपको मिलते हैं to go back. And it's just, when you put it in perspective, you're like, oh my god, like, life is passing me by. And I could have done this, I could have stayed in Pakistan, I could have stayed there, this was easier, but then at the end of the day, like, everything comes with a sacrifice. And then you finally, when you get to that point where Allah Ta'ala like rewards you for all that, you're like, okay, well, maybe it's going to be worth it. I can't tell you guys right now because I haven't started. Inshallah, I'll start in July, and hopefully मुझे सब कहते हैं it's worth it later, down the line, but it's going to be very difficult. I don't know if things are ever going to be worth it per se, sacrificing all that it takes for us to do this, your time with your loved ones, your best friends, starting from scratch. But nothing big in life comes without that. So you have to pick what you value, right? So that's where it ties back to the first few slides where I was like, understand your why. Are you doing this for like the greater good and humanity? Then none of that matters. Like, if you want to leave some kind of impact in the world and you're like, well, I want to get an education in a really good environment so I can bring it back to my country and fix XYZ in the system, then you need to be ready to face all these challenges. Then, crying about little things will seem a little bit futile because you're like, well, ठीक है, मुझे करना पड़ रहा है, I have to do this. And you will have days, you cry, you have breakdowns, you'll spend Eids without your family, not to sound so depressing, but then you'll make really good friends and you will do lots of things with them. You will have lots of things to do and see, and your family will visit or you'll visit, and you'll have that like, like time with them as well. So all of that is something that, like, I just want to encourage you guys that think about it, but once you do, like, stick to that path. Always push yourself, surround yourself with good people and a good support system. I think even though I was so far away from my family and like my friends, jo mere best friends the or hai, sorry, I think that without them supporting me and making me believe in myself, I don't think I would have made it because um when you're in med school and you're together with everyone, you're like, oh yeah, like we're all taking prof together, we're all taking ward tests together, so you feel like you're at the same, people are encouraging you for the same thing. But when you all separate, then everyone's on their own and you don't get that reinforcement that you constantly need to push yourself, because you come to institutes here, everyone's doing the same thing. I came and I was like, oh yeah, I'm so unique. But then there's 10, 15 other people that have the same dream as I do, who are from different parts of the world. Iran se aaye hue hain, people are from like Jordan, like Mexico, they're all exceptional in their med schools. They've come here for research and they're pursuing ophthalmology or some other field. So you're not special. Everyone's doing the same thing. So then you're like, oh shit, like you get into this whole like crisis, and you're like, I'm not good enough, and you're constantly like pushing yourself, because they're not going to come and baby you and be like, oh yeah, like, because they're doing the same thing. So for them, it's the people who are outside of medicine. It's the people whom you form those connections with. They're going to see and they're going to push you because they see where you came from. So it's hopefully going to be worth it, inshallah. I think the best thing is to like make your parents feel proud, and see that how much they invested in your education, it paid off. I think that's the best thing. Sorry guys, I yap a lot. So action plan, I would say, you guys already mentioned this stuff, but you guys can start like getting involved in research. Okay, kuch bhi, case reports. Pakistan has so many like good cases, good data that we don't publish. Write review articles, get a team of med students, make a group, divide the work. It's a little bit, time nikalna padta hai, but when you have a system going, it's not that difficult to do. So, just like get involved in research, start looking up what residencies and all these little terms mean, and look into, the things that I talked about. So that, Acha, when I'm in final year, this is what I'm going to do. Try to study for step one. If you can't, then at least, like, this is what I used to do. I used to read first aid along with my like resources for like prof. So I got familiarized with like the layout of first aid. Do that. Study from good textbooks. Don't half-ass your way through med school. Don't study from bad textbooks, just incorrect information. Study from good books. Build your concepts really, really well, because it's not about exams, it's about you as a doctor. So be sincere. Prioritize, skills like writing, communication, statistics, like understand how to use like basic statistical software, all of that. And I guess how to keep yourself motivated is, motivation is very fleeting. So you have to like take it out of the equation. Don't rely on it. Of course, you meet people, you're inspired by them, it motivates you. You have a goal, it motivates you. But every day, it's about discipline, it's about consistency. Like, you working out every day, like exercise, you're not motivated to go to the gym every day. It's like, oh man, like I'm gonna put myself through pain. But then you're like, you know what, this is good for my body, I'm gonna go, and then the endorphins, and like afterwards I'm gonna feel so good when it's over. And you just show up. So that's what it is, you show up, because motivation dies. No one wants to sit down and like open their books all day and just study for 8 hours. But you have to keep pushing yourself, and have good outlets. Exercise, go out with your friends, do fun things once a week, hang out with your family. Don't skip out on all of that stuff. Don't burn yourself out, because it's going to catch up with you. So, keep how many ever times you need reinforcement, reach out to the people around you, reach out to like mentors that you have, seniors, other people, like just give yourself pep talks in the mirror, because that's what's going to take you at the end of the day. And then I think like about building your brand and finding out who you are. This is like one of my favorite quotes. So it's, I think people think that, oh yeah, like I want to know who I am, I want to find out who I am, and they're just like so obsessed with this idea. But constantly evolving and constantly searching for who you are, that's what life is about. Like, if you were to just know who you are, and that was that, life would be so boring, and it wouldn't be, it just wouldn't be the same. Like the people you meet in life that inspire you the most and who've done things in life are those that keep searching for meaning, who keep evolving and like growing. And like they're always thinking, well, I do want to do this, but also like I wish I could do that, and I wish I had like a million lives to do this, do that. So don't worry about it. You will figure out who you are. You have your whole life. You don't need to know at 22 or 23 कि अच्छा मैंने ये करना है. I know people who did ophthalmology research for 2 years and they're like, I don't want to do ophthalmology anymore, and they switched to medicine. Or people who did surgery residency and they're like, I want to do something else now. Or someone who started like surgery and they're like, I was becoming very toxic. I didn't want to be that person, so I'm gonna become a radiologist. Someone I know who went to law school and then she was like someone I heard of, and she was like, I want to do med school now, and she switched. So we think things are very linear, but they're not, and it's okay. You don't need to know what you want to do today, but that's the point, right? You have to try to figure it out, and you can keep, maybe one day you'll wake up and you're like, I want to quit medicine. So what? It doesn't matter. Like it seems like, oh my god, like I need to achieve something to feel validated because that's what we're conditioned to do, but none of that matters. So just like play with that idea a little bit, don't stress out. And yeah, I guess thank you guys for listening. I'm not sure if I touched on everything. If you guys have specific questions, I know this kind of got a little long. You can ask me, and if you ever want to reach out, just email me or like message me on Instagram. I will try my best to reply, and just if I can help in any way, let me know. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and I hope you guys weren't bored, and I hope that this helped you. But I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sarah. It was a very, very nice and insightful session, and everyone enjoyed so much.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through the reactions and the messages that everyone sent in during the session. So, do we have time to take a few questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sure. So, ma'am, what professional etiquettes you felt we as Pakistani IMGs lack? If we want to pursue our career, what specific things do we need to work on?
I think like obviously, I think Pakistanis don't lack English speaking skills. Like we kind of, know how to communicate and everything, but we tend to be a little like pushy with mentors. So it's like, we ask for too much too soon. So if someone comes for a rotation with someone, like I'll give you an example. If I get a rotation with a certain professor or मैं आती हूँ, and then एक हफ्ता भी नहीं हुआ and I start reaching out to everyone in the university and I'm like, hi, I'm here for this rotation with this person. Can I shadow you, or do you have any research opportunities for me, without even telling my mentor or without like building that connection and like trust with him? I start reaching out to everybody else. That's not like professional in a way. And then you become pushy and you're trying to kind of like constantly get things out of them. So that's one thing that I think one shouldn't do. If you come for an observership, you spend 3 weeks with them, and then before you leave, then you talk to them about anything. Like if you want a letter, if you want any kind of like opportunity, you request for a meeting. Like थोड़े से इस तरह के etiquettes. You don't just barge in anytime. You respect their time. You request for separate time for something. You don't ask for too much too soon until they've trusted you, until they've built that kind of like, okay, this person is from an outside system that I have never heard of. I've probably heard really bad things about Pakistan, and I already assume that these people will not be as good as white people. Okay, just an example. If there's any white person on this call, I'm sorry, I don't think so, but still. But like they already have these biases, right? You don't want to confirm their bias. You want to make a good impression that no, like I am professional, I have manners, I'm gonna take time out, and just all of these things. That's one thing I think we lack. The other stuff I think, I it sounds mean, but I feel like just a little bit of how to present yourself, like, grooming and stuff, like how to carry yourself in an environment with people you don't know across. And I understand, we all come from different backgrounds. Pakistan, we don't get to interact with different cultures, but we were colonized. I think we all listen to and watch American TV shows and music more than anyone else. And I think that आपको एक certain etiquette होना चाहिए कि how am I going to dress when I go to a certain situation? Like, I'm not just gonna show up in shalwar kameez to a hospital. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that shalwar kameez is beautiful. Like, I would wear it anytime very proudly. Okay, but I'm just saying कि like एक professional setting में अपने आप को आपने कैसे carry करना है, appearance wise, speaking wise, the way that you like, show up, and you don't want to be performative. आपने चीजें ऐसे नहीं करनी just to gain an advantage out of somebody. You have to do them very sincerely. So I think these are the things I would say are coming in my head right now. Other than that, I think mashallah, like Pakistanis, they're very, very good and we're very smart. So yeah.
Okay, so the next questions from the chat box. Is it compulsory to have some research experience in order to get selected as a research fellow?
I don't know what you mean by some like research experience. If you mean like working as someone in research, or no. Publications, I think it helps most certainly if you have at least one, or agar aap kisi project pe kaam kar rahe ho, like if you can say that I'm currently working on a certain project, it certainly helps because they're like, well, she knows a little bit, or he knows a little bit about the, how things are done. But you don't need to have extensive research experience कि आपकी like a PhD level CVO or something like that. But if you can get involved in any kind of research workshop, ये ARCOP की होती रहती हैं, although they're like low key, थोड़े से वो लोग scammy हैं, but they do teach you a lot. So just you can like put that in your CV, or you can, if you take a course online, you can put that in your CV. But I think you can try to have some sort of experience because you guys are pretty early on in the timeline, and I think by the time you graduate, चीजें थोड़ी सी और competitive हो जाएंगी. So why would you want to hold yourself back when everyone else around you is already doing research? So try. I'm not saying, I know it's very hard, but कोशिश करो कि आप हो जाओ involved किसी तरह से. So yeah, I would say it helps a little bit.
Okay, the other question I wanted to ask, me and our president, we are very much into posting a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. Whatever we do, whatever volunteer stuff we do, we regularly post that on our LinkedIn. So do you think that helps, and do you think that matters in the long run?
That's a really good question. I think that it helps. I think that's great. It's weird to do it because you're like, oh my god, I'm being perceived by everyone. सब देखेंगे तो post करिए क्या, and you feel weird because you're just like putting yourself out there. लेकिन I think it really helps because it helps you gain exposure. Because we're in Pakistan, हमें यहाँ पे कोई we don't come to conferences here. यहाँ पे जब आप आते हो ना, and you see these med students, they get exposure to all these faculty members and everything so early on. ये लोग conferences पे आते हैं, they get to network with them. Us, we're from an outside system. So if you're exposing yourself and people know that this girl or this guy is up to something, they might have seen you somewhere. It's yeah, you should feel validated. It took me some time, honestly. Like मुझे like abhi bhi, like when I started posting on my Instagram page, abhi I have to get back to it, but I'm more of an introverted person, so I don't like attention. I don't like being perceived, and like I'm just like, oh my god, look. But honestly, logon ka attention span itna short hai that no one cares. You think that people are specifically looking at your stuff and going like, oh my god, ye kya kar rahi hai, kya nahi kara, but people just watch and they scroll and they forget. Nazar ka ek hota hai, as Muslims we're always like, oh mujhe डर लगता है, मुझे नजर ना लग जाए, ये ना हो जाए. But honestly, like as long as you're not showing off, आपकी intention is not to show off, you're just doing it for like, and you feel like Allah will protect me, inshallah nothing will happen. Don't ever do it to make someone feel bad for not achieving something. Don't do it too much where you're just like one of those annoying people who are like constantly posting things. But I think what I've seen, there's this like postdoc in Mass Ein Ear in Harvard, एक lab है. उसमें ना उसका जो पीआई है, he's a relatively younger and he's very active on Instagram. तो वो अपने mentees को हमेशा he posts them on his Instagram story. Every paper he publishes, he posts it. And his mentees, like, before I even spoke to her, मुझे पता था वो कौन है. So, you know, like, people know कि ये कौन है, who she is. So it gives her that, like, edge already, that, like, उसके mentor ने उसकी stories पे वो post कर रहा है, वो LinkedIn पे post कर रहा है. So yes, I think it's a great thing you guys are doing. Don't feel shy. I know it's a little weird सा feel होता है, but it's okay, you know. Just don't be annoying about it, but it will help you, inshallah.
Inshallah. So you mentioned that the US people go to conferences and present their stuff. So here in Pakistan, I've also been to a lot of conferences, and I don't have a lot of papers right now, but I presented the same paper at two conferences. So don't you think some professors told me that it's not okay for the US people, but it's okay here in Pakistan? So can you like guide me on that as well?
Um, I think it's probably not okay in the US sometimes because when you submit a paper to a conference, आपने ना एक चीज stick करनी होती है कि this has not been published before or like submitted somewhere else because they want that like उनकी conference पे ये चीज highlight हो. Some conferences care, some don't. Some conferences you can submit the same thing to two. Like for ophthalmology, jo Arvo and American Academy ki meeting hoti hai, I think that requires you to not. But like other global ophthalmology, for example, they don't care. So it's okay. It's a great thing that maybe your conferences, if someone ever asks you, you can be like, that was a project that I really worked hard on, and the conference didn't have a requirement that this has not been presented before. So this is why I presented it in two because it got selected. Just frame it that way. Don't but at the same time, don't submit one paper to 5 conferences and just put that in your CV as 5 different presentations. You know what I mean? Don't stretch it. But two is fine. Like I think it's okay because Pakistan mein things are different. So you can list that as 2 separate presentations.
Okay, one last question before we close. I really wanted to know what was your mentor's name. He really helped you throughout your.
Oh,
So I think you should mention his name.
yeah, I sorry I didn't. So my main mentors are like मेरे जो PI है, his name is Amir H. Kashani. If anyone wants to look him up, Kashani is his last name. He's technically American, but like I think he has Iranian origins. So he's honestly such a good mentor. Like Abibi, um when I'm transitioning into residency, he's like thinking about like, okay, you should do this, you should do that. And the other 2 mentors that I had at Wilmer were Dr. Guyton, David Lee Guyton. He's actually Guyton's son, जो Guyton जिसने किताब लिखी है physiology की. उनके बेटे जो हैं सबसे बड़े, he's an ophthalmologist. He's pretty old now, but he's someone I really wanted to work with. He's a pediatric ophthalmologist and adult strabismus specialist. तो मैं उनके पास आई थी rotation करने, and then I met my PI उस process में. So I took a huge risk. My PI was like, it would be really nice to meet you in person if you're in the area. So I scheduled my rotations just so I could go and meet him. And because I knew, okay, in person, he's like, it's okay if you can't, but it would be nice to like blah blah blah. So that's my other mentor, Dr. Guyton. He was one of my letter writers as well. The third mentor is Dr. Edward Kuwera, Kuwera, will be Wilmer में है, Hopkins में. He's a relatively younger faculty, but I think he was the one who was out of these three, because Dr. Guyton is very old. He's famous, so his word matters a lot. So his letter, like when people were like, okay, she has a letter from him, it was like important. Dr. Kuwera was someone who pushed for me a lot. Like he encouraged me. उन्होंने शुरू से मुझे, I was very lucky that when I first came, I got to rotate with him. And then when I was applying for residency, he became APD. So he became Associate Program Director, which was, I don't know, Allah Ta'ala ki kya cheez thi, but मैंने जब research शुरू की थी, my mentor wanted me to work with the pediatric department because मैंने recruit करना था उससे. And somehow I ended up working with Kuwera again. And so I had like a long-term relationship with him. And then he became associate program director. So he was on the committee. So it was kind of like in that way, even though he wasn't that famous yet, he was in that leadership program director role. And then those were my three mentors. एक और मेरे जो mentor है जिनके साथ मैंने rotation की थी, he's pretty famous as well. He's so cool. If you guys get the chance, whoever's interested in ophthalmology, go rotate with him. It will change your life. His name is Andrew G. Lee, Lee Lee. He has a YouTube channel. It's called Neuro Ophthalmology with Andrew Lee. He's a neuro ophthalmologist. मैं उनकी वीडियो से बहुत पढ़ती थी in fourth year, and I used to be like, this guy is so cool. And I reached out to him. He works at the Houston Methodist Hospital in Texas. So आप उनके साथ observership कर सकते हो. वो बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा लोगों को, international students को लेते हैं. तो उनका like उनका भी influence था बहुत ज़्यादा मेरी journey पे. वो आपको बिल्कुल सीधा सीधा बताते हैं if you could match into ophthalmology or not. Like he's very like straight up, but he's very smart. So he expects like, he likes if you're smart. So if you go to the rotation and you impress him, then that's like really good, because if Andy Lee likes you, then it's like such a big deal. So these are the four people I would say. And then my professor from Pakistan, if anyone wants to ever like look him up as well, he's wonderful. He was at KE, but he recently just retired, like he left KE. So his name is Dr. Muhammad Ali Ayaz Sadiq. He currently he works in Lahore at the Eye Associates. That's his clinic. And he also has a hospital. It's called Sardar Trust Eye Hospital. He was the one who inspired me to do ophthalmology, to be honest, because he had done his fellowship from Boston Children's Hospital at Harvard. तो वो ही थे सिर्फ केई में जिन्होंने at the time जिन्होंने US से कुछ ट्रेनिंग की हुई थी. तो मैंने उनसे पूछा था कि like मैं US जाना चाहती हूँ, what's the process? And so he currently does like a few weeks in the US and then he goes back and forth. But if anyone's ever interested in ophthalmology, reach out to him. You can mention my name. You can say that Sarah said, after the web, whatever, and reach out to him. He's such a good teacher. Honestly, was one of the best teachers I've ever had. Or agar aap log Lahore jaate ho, if anyone has time while you're like taking a gap year studying, you can shadow his hospital, you can shadow in his clinic. He's a very good person as well too. So these were a couple of people. One thing to add is that if it was just my main mentor like Dr. Kashani, I don't know if I would have matched, because the kind of push that is required for an IMG, especially in ophthalmology, it takes reinforcement from multiple people. And अगर मैंने सिर्फ उनके साथ research की होती तो शायद मेरी उतनी publications भी ना होती, because the kind of research that I do with him takes a little bit more time. Whereas like मैंने Dr. Lee के साथ कुछ projects में मैं involved हो गई थी, तो that kind of upped my numbers. So I think it took like multiple people's efforts and vouching. If it was just Dr. Kashani, I don't know how much he would have like picked up the phone for me. Like वो मुझे आज तक नहीं पता कि मेरे letter में क्या लिखा है. मैंने उनको draft दिया. Obviously, like people told me you have amazing letters, but I don't know what's in them, right? So आपको ये भी नहीं पता होता कि where you were ranked on the rank list. So at the end of the day, like it's not just one mentor. Sometimes people get lucky and one person is like extremely powerful and pushes for you and goes like, oh, if you don't take my mentee, then I will resign. Like there are people who do that. But like it depends. My professor's he's not like that. He's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to resign if you don't take Sarah. Like that's just stupid, I feel. But there are people who do that. People are like, no, you're going to make a position for this person. But you don't need that kind of, I think if you're a well-rounded person, just if you guys want like an overall message for matching into competitive residencies, number one is obviously med school grades, aapke average ya achhe ho, but your step scores, make sure your step scores are good. Like step 2, 260 plus, aim for that. Up 250s, agar in medicine karni hai to theek hai, like 250s is fine, but 260 plus step score important hai. Research karo, theek hai. Ophthalmology ke liye 10 publications minimum, 3 first author at least, okay? So have papers. I don't know about other specialties kitna hai, but this is something important. Clinical experience. So rotations, do at least 1 to 2 while you're doing research or while before that. Research experience आ जाता है आपका, फिर जो postdoc होती है आपकी, And then obviously Baki additional like cherries on top if you can get a green card. Not necessary, forget about it. Don't be pareshan about it right now. But like that's just like remotely agar aap soch rahe ho, to like keep that in mind. Um, and just yeah, have all of these things, be a well-rounded individual. And then when you like apply, you know you have everything. So you did everything you could. The rest is obviously like up to whatever is written for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah. We have another question. After that, we'll close. While applying for research fellowship, our LOR should be US based, or we can use LORs from Pakistani ophthalmologists as well. So this is by Dr. Inam.
पाकिस्तान is fine. Yeah, you if you have मेरे सारे जो research के LORs थे जब मैंने um would they ask you about them once you're like accepted, I guess, and when or maybe they'll ask before, but once you're applying through that formal platform. So my LORs were from Pakistani ophthalmologists. Two were from ophthalmologists. One of them was Dr. Ali, who was at the time वो KE में थे. एक Dr. Asad Aslam Khan थे, जो उस वक्त like he's like KE में, he was like the head as well. उन्होंने मेरा viva लिया था. And then the third person was our community medicine head, and she's like the editor of our research magazine. So that was like a research oriented letter that I got. So two ophthalmology letters, one research letter, because it was for a research position. और क्योंकि मैंने उस वक्त I'll send you guys the slides तो आप लोग देख लेना मैंने उसमें क्या लिखा था and you can tailor it. So you can do that. You can do two ophthalmologists, one medicine. You can do one ophthalmologist, one medicine, one surgery, whatever you want. Like you can, and if you have the availability to choose a US ophthalmologist, like agar aapne koi rotation ki hui hai, so there's no harm in adding one of those. So either of those work.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sarah. So I also had a question. Firstly, thank you so much for such an insightful session. It was beyond expectations, and I'd also like to thank Aliza for connecting us with you. She's been in contact with you. We wanted this session for a long time, and finally it happened. I'd like to share an anecdote as well, since you've been so kind and you've shared your experiences as well. So when we were taking interviews for this year's term at Reed, we interviewed Arisha, who's our outreach director, and she talked about, we asked her why you want to be part of Reed and what interests you in research, and she mentioned there's so many people who serve as inspiration, and she talked about, I saw this doctor, she's in Johns Hopkins and she matched in ophthalmology, and I was like so inspired, and it was a very happy moment for me, and we told her, okay, we're in contact with her and we're going to be having a session soon, and she was like really impressed. So we have a lot of Dr. Sarah fangirls here in the chat. Yeah. And my question would be like I'm also someone who's interested more in the academic side of medicine compared to the clinical side, and research experience and research fellowships are one way of doing that. So there's also different pathways now to get into the US research ecosystem. There's this MD PhD pathway, then there's this physician scientist pathway, and then there's this research fellowships that you can do. So if you had the option of if you were in my place, and if you had the option of, now that you have an insider's view into the system, what pathway would you prefer if you want to go into this academic side of medicine, research and publishing in the US and working in labs and so on and so forth?
Okay. Firstly, hi Arisha, and that's so sweet. And Aliza, you as well. Thank you for reaching out. You've been so nice and been so patient, dealing, messaging me and reminding me. You guys are so sweet. I'm glad that I could inspire you. It's really, really nice. It makes my heart really warm, and can't wait to see you all succeed. And yeah, thanks for telling me, Ishan. I hope that's how you pronounce your name. And so I think that, and yeah, what you guys are doing, this whole society thing, it's just super cool. So you guys inspire me more. I want to ask you, do you want to like by academic side, do you mean like future may you want to start your own lab, that kind of a thing? Or just in general, you want to do like medicine with research, like clinical stuff with research?
Yeah, I haven't thought so far into the future that one day, maybe, inshallah, I hope to get my own lab as well. But yeah, my question was focused more on doing clinical work and research work, and majorly focusing on clinical research, like patient-focused outcomes and so on and so forth.
Okay.
basically development of the field in the scientific field. And I'm interested in hematology and oncology. So
Hmm.
it's a really research heavy field as well. So there's practice changing updates every year for cancer and so forth. So that's why I wanted your input about, if I want, this is my future goal. So what pathway would you suggest?
So I think that, do you need a PhD or something of that sort to do research effectively? I don't think so. Um, but if time isn't a factor for you, like if you don't mind spending 4 or 5 years getting another degree and then applying for residency because you want to be somebody who is more like into a specific niche, like let's say you want to do leukemia research and you want to be someone who actually develops like more refined techniques for like that particular field, and then you want to like apply for residency and time is not a factor, and you are okay with like working as a PhD, you know fellow or whatever, and getting a stipend, and वो एक अलग story है international students के लिए कितना मुश्किल है to get into a PhD program as well. That's another thing. But if you're okay with that, if I had the chance, let's say, I wouldn't personally, because मुझे, like, I like the clinical stuff. I like research, but at the same time, um, I am not going to do a lot of research my whole life. Like, I don't want to be primarily research. I like treating patients, operating, and like seeing like results and stuff like that. And maybe being like a physician scientist in the sense where I do like 60% clinical, 40% research, just say academic programs mein karte hain. And even in the future, if I want to apply for a grant and do all of that, I know I don't need a PhD for that. Yes, it would be cool to have the title, but like I don't want to spend 5 years like doing more stuff. Taki main finally jab residency mein hoon and I'll be like older, and like I didn't want to do that. So I think that, because you asked me what I would, if I would do that, I don't think I would apply for a PhD, because it would be more of a very, very like longer and more difficult pathway. I know my friends currently जो यहाँ पे masters उन्होंने किया है पाकिस्तान से आके, और वो PhD के लिए apply कर रहे हैं, and उनकी बहुत मुश्किल हो रही है to get interviews and get into a program because of like funding and like visa stuff, and they're preferring like American graduates and stuff like that. So I don't know if I want to already put myself through two difficult things. Would it make me, like, I know people who are MD PhDs who've matched into great programs, and I know people who are MDs and MD MPH. So usme koi fark nahi hai. If you want to do hemonc research, if you don't want like the title or degree next to your name, मास्टर्स कर सकते हो आप किसी चीज में, अगर आप अफोर्ड कर सकते हो, और स्कॉलरशिप मिल सकती है, because it's expensive. If you want to do something specific to hemonc, you can get a master's that might up your credentials that way. But I don't think you need to do that, honestly. Like, if you are into academia, you want to do hemonc. I don't know if you actually know someone who wants to do hemonc as well, and who's, so you if you want to match into an academic program with research, do a research fellowship, postdoc karo, because you don't just want to match into internal medicine in a community program. Research karo, do it in a good institute, work with a heme-onc mentor, and curate your CV that way. Match into a good academic program. There are people who've matched into Yale, and people who've matched into like, Aga Khan ke log, to khair unka ek monopoly si hai, but like Cleveland mein match ho jata hai unka. But like if you guys are, mashallah, Shifa is a wonderful institute. You guys have great people matching in really good institutes as well. And you can do it. So if you do research for 2 years and you want to target like academic schools, there's so many. I think you can match, and you can save yourself some time doing like other degrees and other things, because in essence, like, that time that you're going to spend, unless आपने research scientist बनना है और आगे जाके आपने, तब भी अगर आपने अपनी own lab अगर आपने start करनी है, you might need a PhD. But if you want a postdoc, like if you want your own postdoc and mentees to do work for you, you don't need your own lab, because once you get a faculty position in one academic institute, वो आपको आप negotiate कर सकते हो, आपको offer करते हैं कि like we'll give you some funding to hire a postdoc or hire a mentee. So you can do all those things. So it depends on your goals. I don't personally, it would be cool to get a PhD. I am kind of a nerdy person, so I would be like, हाँ मैं कर लेती हूँ, but अभी 2 साल research करने के बाद I'm like मुझे research और नहीं करनी, like I just want to be a doctor because मैं question करना शुरू हो गई थी कि मुझे medicine, like मैं quit, like not quit, but I was like, man, like this is not what I signed up to do, you know, like yes, it involves patient contact, it involves all of that, but there's so much delayed gratification. I'm not like actually doing the thing that I studied for in medical school. So I was questioning कि मेरा passion तो नहीं खत्म हो रहा, like अभी भी मुझे डर लगता है that when I start residency, am I going to love what I do? And if I don't love it, I'm scared because I'm not the kind of person who can do something that she doesn't like. So, you know, it makes you question it. So if you're like, you love research and you want to do that for, you know, like jab bhi PhD jitni duration hoti hai, that's wonderful. But I think honestly, you don't need to do that. You'll be fine. I think you're smart enough, and probably like आप उसके साथ साथ आप पोस्ट डॉक में वो कर सकते हो. पोस्ट डॉक में आपको वो research fellowship का वो मिलता है, but you don't get a title, you know. Sometimes I do think about it. I do think कि अच्छा चलो मैं 2 साल और लगा लेती, मैं PhD कर लेती. I could have at least had a degree out of it. But then it's not just 2 साल, right? It's like 5 years, and then like residency के आप apply करो. That's like even more. And then a lot of times उस वक्त तक आपका year of graduation इतना पीछे चला जाता है. And you know, they don't care. Residency programs don't care about how efficient of a researcher you're going to be. They want to see how much of a doctor you can be. Like for us, people were like, we know you guys are good at research. आप लोग IMG's research करते हैं, वो सीख लेते हैं research, but we want to know कि आपकी clinical, क्योंकि आप लोग clinical से दूर हो जाते हो फिर, how like they want our letter writers to write something about our clinical skills. Okay, this person is good clinically as well, because they don't care aap kitne papers publish kar sakte ho. Yes, it's important to get you promoted into professor and all these positions, but they want you to be a good doctor first. I think there are some integrated like research scientist pathways as well. Ophthalmology, at least you can look it up. Maybe HEMONC has some programs where, like Wilmer, for example, has a separate pathway which is called STAR, and certain big programs have that, like UCLA and a couple. Just मैं आप ना residency के बीच में 1 साल पूरा आप research करते हो. So some people apply to that. So they start residency. They do 1 year of research. It's called like Wilmer, it's called the STAR program. You work with a mentor and then you continue residency. You can look up those kinds of pathways if that might help. I didn't want to do that. I already did two years of research. Or my residency maybe continue kar sakti hu. Like I will be expected to, because when you're in an academic program, they want you to do research. So I think that उस लिहाज से मुझे नहीं लगता था, मतलब I wanted to kind of not spend that much time, and if in the future मेरा दिल चाहे to get a PhD, I can always do it after residency. So I think I hope that helps. I hope that didn't confuse you too much.
Also,
thank you so much. It really helped. And yeah, I'd also like to say that if you're ever in Pakistan, we'd love to have an in-person session with you as well at Shifa. I think that would be great for everyone who could not attend and they've missed out on. I'm going to probably message my friends right after this that you've missed out on this session. You didn't attend.
Aw, that's so sweet. I'd be really happy to, inshallah, whenever I get to come next. Thank you for saying that.
Also, I'm the Risha Ishan mentioned, and it was really lovely to have this session. And I really do hope you come and I get to meet you in person. But yeah, I've been sad for like 2 hours straight, and my attention span has never lasted this long recently. So it's been really nice. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Arisha. You guys are so nice, and I appreciate it. I hope you know that if you ever need anything, you feel free to email or message me. I might not reply immediately, lekin mujhe, you know, just know that I'm here to help. I didn't really have many people is तरह से to kind of, you know, people उस वक्त things were, yeah, it was hard to navigate ophthalmology ka wo sara pathway. So I'm glad it helps you guys. And if you're ever in the US, if you need anything here, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, which is like DC, like DMV area. So if you guys ever need anything, let me know. You know, I'm like, whatever, I'm happy to help and stuff.
I think
So
to
much.
include on this note, Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah, for taking out 2 hours for us. It was a lovely session. We really enjoyed it, and every single person in the session was very happy in the chat box. I'm not sure if you've gone through the chat box or not, but it was a really nice time with you. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
I did look at the chats. Thank you guys so much, and yeah, thank you for your time. Or I hope it helped, and yeah, just pray for me that I don't suck as a doctor in
And
residency. But
do
but
we'll
yeah,
pray.
take care. And yeah, don't worry, you guys will be fine. Mashallah, you're all so like, well versed on things. But Ishan, Ona, if anything, just live your life. Like that's what I would say. Um, hold on. I do see this person asking a question that I didn't answer. Sorry. As a
Sure.
student starting second year MBBS, I think it's really hard to manage studies with USMLE, research, and academics. Nimra Khalil would be grateful to get some guidance about how to manage step one at the end of second or third year. Okay, first and second year is really tough. I would not recommend studying uske saath, honestly. Mujhe yaad hai, anatomy was like, very, very tough. You don't want to risk, failing any of those subjects. Third year, fourth year mein aap koshish kar sakte ho. Fourth year relatively, you can start. Third year mein you start studying pathology, right? So just, I think for you guys, is it a modular system for you guys or?
So, ma'am, here in Shifa, we have a modular system, and it's very, very nice that. But we don't study patho, pharma, or micro in our first 2 years. We study them in our third year. But usually, our seniors get done with their step one by the end of third year. So
Oh wow, that's so cool.
yeah, I have my step one book here on my
Oh
table.
my God, you guys, mashallah, that's so cool. Okay, well, yeah, I think don't pressure yourself, Nimra. I think koi baat nahi. It's just because everyone is doing it. You don't have to try to see that, you know, research ko abhi chhod do beshak. If steps is your priority, do that. Step one de do because it's pass fail. Maybe you can manage that. And then you can start doing research and then studying for step two over the next 3 years until final year because final year ke subjects usme hote hain. So maybe research ko abhi side pe kar do. You don't have to like worry about everything at once, I would say. Baki, I think, yeah, every Hadra, I think I've spoken to Hadra before. She said, final year student at RMU, I can either manage a 4-week research elective at JHU and another 4-week shadowing somewhere else, or I can do an 8-week elective. Should I utilize it for one research and divide it into 4-week and 4-week shadowing somewhere else? You can, this is, okay, final year student. Honestly, it's up to you. Like, 8 weeks, I feel like 4 weeks might be too little to do research at Hopkins. I don't know if they would, be able to make you work on like a couple of projects. If you do 8 weeks, you can do some clinical work here as well. I don't know what department you're coming into, but if the other opportunity is something you can't ever get again, like 4 weeks somewhere else, then you might as well divide your time and see what you can get done in both ways. Like if it's not something that special, then you can probably try to manage it some other way. And if you have any questions, just like email me. Can you kindly explain if someone applies EB2 and that gets rejected, is that person allowed to work in the future on J1? I don't know, actually. You need to look into it because you might have already expressed immigration intent. So shayad you're not eligible for a J1 anymore. Like, I'm not sure. So be very careful about all of this. And Khadija, thank you for saying all of that. And yeah, I'll just put my email in the chat box, actually. Or actually, yeah, if you guys can, you know what, just message me on Instagram.
Dr. Sarah, I'll share your email with
Oh,
the people.
okay. Everyone? Okay, wonderful. That's great. But I guess that's it. Sorry, I just wanted to check if there's something I didn't go through.
I think someone raised their hand. I'm not sure if that person wants to speak or if it was an accident.
Yeah, Inam Khan. I guess.
Could the moderator please unmute him?
Yeah, you guys, we can do this and then we can wrap it up. I think he said if something about low step. Yeah. If someone has a low step score but has publications, research of 2 years and well-rounded CV, what is a low step score? Like, what do you mean? Below what? If it's like 230s, then I don't think so. But if it's like 250s, then yeah, it's possible. 220s, I feel like you reached out to me before somehow. I don't know, honestly, unless you have like, I'm not saying it's not possible, because you know, if you can compensate for that with a very, very strong mentor vouching for you, or I don't know, a very large amount of papers and like a very significant research to impactful law, maybe they will overlook that. But the problem is that they do screen applicants based on step 2 scores now. Like, अगर आप किसी mentor से बात करोगे, आप पहली चीज उनको बताओगे मेरा step 2 score ये है, they're gonna be a little like, you know, thrown off, because it reflects your academic performance. It reflects like how I'm not saying that you're not smart. You might have like lucked out badly and gotten a bad step 2 score. But I think it's good to be realistic, and I'm not going to give you false hope. I think applying for residency might be competitive, like, because in itself, like, jo आप अगर statistics देख लो, तो average score is 250 से ऊपर ही है. Even for American medical graduates. And, you know, like now people are getting 270s, 280s. So I don't want you to like be disappointed investing so much of your time. And then you can try. I'm not saying you shouldn't try. Try. Maybe compensate for that with lots of presentations, lots of research, really, really strong mentors. Maybe try to get like another degree. I'm not sure. But another pathway for you and for anyone else might be that this is an alternative pathway where you complete residency in your home country and then you do fellowship in the US. If you've done your steps and you're ECFMG certified, वो भी उससे भी आप board certified हो सकते हो. तो ophthalmology में अगर आपने residency complete की है, you can do 2 to 3 fellowships, and then depending on the state, you can become board certified to practice within like, and then after a couple of years, आपको unrestricted license मिल जाता है. So that's something you can do. उसमें मुझे नहीं लगता step 2 scores will matter. So if you want to save your time and energy, I would recommend do residency from a good institute in Pakistan, complete it, and then build your CV as you are, apply for fellowship, and then come here for fellowship. If you want to try for residency, definitely maybe do research for longer. Talk to a mentor. I don't know if any mentor would be willing to, you know, risk that. I don't know, honestly. Like, I don't know if I know anyone who's matched with that score. मैं IMGs के इतने scores को जानती नहीं हूँ, but it might be tough, but I guess you can try, but I don't want you to have like really false hope. I hope that helped, and I hope that didn't like discourage you. Oh wait, Aliza, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I think we're done with the questions, and it was lovely having you, Dr. Sarah. And hopefully we'll stay in touch. And I'll disturb sometimes with some stuff that I need guidance on, if you don't mind. I'll wait for your responses, but I'll ask for stuff, some basic stuff that may sound stupid to you, but yeah, that's basically it from my side.
Thank you guys so much, and yeah, happy to help, and thank you guys for organizing this, and hopefully, yeah, stay in touch, and hopefully if you guys need anything, I'll try my best to I'll send Aliza the slides, so अगर आप लोगों को इसमें से कुछ information चाहिए, you can just, you know, use it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you everyone.
Guys, good luck with everything. Lafis.